So as you can hear, our panelists come from a wealth of experience in the lives that they lead professionally and personally. And I think like you were talking about reproductive choice, you think, okay, so wasn't that battle resolved? Didn't we already do that? But clearly not, because we have to continue to beat the drum roll, and therefore the need to bring more people along. So when we talk about the experiences of nonprofit women and corporate women, how do you envision that we create partnerships to address some of those issues from your different perspectives and maybe from your colleagues? And that's an open question for all of you. How do we start to think, envisioning the possibility of collaborating with women? If you're in the nonprofit, then you're collaborating with corporate women. If you're in the corporate sector, collaborating with women in the nonprofit NGO sector. Would you like to start?
I can start if you'd like, because we've got some talkers over here, I see. But in any case, I'll just start it off, and that is pretty much the epicenter of the work that I do on a regular basis. I can tell you from a personal level, one, you've got to be interested in wanting to connect with other women, and some women don't want to do that for a variety of reasons, and I don't have to articulate what those are. But events like this today is critical. This is where it all starts, is getting up saying, I've got all these things to get done today for my personal self, and you got to do that, of course. But I have historical opportunity to sit down with some people that I will probably never get a chance to see, and specifically with good, strong focus know that I'm there because I want to share a piece of myself and receive a piece of others who might share the same agenda and same ideas and issues that I do. So sometimes when I talk to, I serve as an adjunct professor teaching communications and management to younger people, and what I do is I say, you know, part of the process of learning and living and growing, and this is true in nonprofits, it's true in your social life, it's true in your corporate life, is pushing yourself to do something that you typically do not do. That is Saturday, showing up, going to an event, connecting with people, making sure that you get the numbers and names of people that you absolutely will follow up with so you can continue the dialogue and the conversation. I fortunately work for a company who promotes that kind of behavior. I do it on a regular basis. This is Saturday. When I leave here, I've got to go to another event. Tomorrow, I've got to go to another event. And then there's Monday, you've got to go back to work and do some other things. So I think part of it is having the personal commitment to get out and do that. And you don't have to belong to a group or a nonprofit. There are listings everywhere, community centers, wherever you go, that promote opportunities for you to connect and network with other women's organizations. It's just a matter of showing up, and guess what? Taking somebody with you, taking someone along with you. It starts like that for me. Okay.
Thank you. Would like to add to that, or Patricia?
Well, I think one of the best ways to try and connect the corporation and the nonprofits is through corporate social responsibility groups. I know at one point I was collaborating very closely with Semantic Corporation's social responsibility groups, and one of their hallmarks was actually publicizing the percentage of executives and women in management compared to the percentage of women in their overall population. And I know recently we've been seeing so many diversity reports that are coming out. But if the nonprofits want to get some of those corporate dollars, then they need to be very thoughtful about aligning their asks with some of the pillars for those corporate social responsibility programs, because more often than not, the corporations will have specific priorities. And you have to try and show how your passion aligns with and dovetails with those priorities in order to free up that budget.
Okay. Did you want to add to it?
Can I respond to that? I don't want to take away from anyone, but you hit on an area that's extremely important to us from a corporate perspective. And you're right, the language you absolutely need to know before you begin to ask is to know something about the organization. What do you do? I know AT&T, as an example, provides telecom and wireless services. But what else is there to the organization? You have the onus of finding that out. Or if we're at an environment like this, let's talk about it. Before you even think about asking, know something about the organization, and guess what? I have the responsibility of getting to know a little bit about you, because people who know, or organizations that know each other, are in a much greater position to move forward when you start the dialogue about how do we support each other. And it's not always done through money. There's other opportunities.
I think it would also be important to have ambassadors within the corporation to help foster those kinds of ties. And so one thing that corporations need to remember with corporate social responsibilities that focus on women is that it ties in with all kinds of things that are good for corporations. There's tons of reports on this. Credit Suisse just did a report in 2012. The McKinsey Group does tons of research as well on tracking women and corporate performance, and they always find that corporations that support women through their corporate social responsibility programs have higher profits, they have higher returns on investments, they have higher retention of their employees. So there is this great symbiotic relationship between corporations reaching out to NGOs and supporting those NGOs, but also that the corporations get something back from that relationship. It really is not a one-way situation. So I think it's good to have ambassadors inside corporate America showing the leadership of those corporations these kinds of statistics and bringing these kinds of really paving the way to bringing in corporate social responsibility programs that focus on women. So it could also go two ways, is my point.
Chantalia, did you want to add to that? And then we'll go to
Yeah,
Patricia.
actually, I want to say I'll agree with what you said. And as a young student, I think one of the things that will help us bound is a new field. I don't know if you have ever heard about it. It's called social entrepreneurship. It's about NGOs mixed with business. I think being in this field, I started that study, and being in this field helped me open my eyes on businesswomen, businessmen, or other corporates, so I can maybe do some change, really great change, because NGOs, let's face it, it's not sustainable. We need something that will some sustainable. That's why I think it's really important to be to partner with business.
Patricia?
Well, I have a kind of a comment and a question. I absolutely agree that corporations can successfully partner with nonprofits and develop and learn more about what that business case is for having women empowered in the corporations, and kind of what that business case is. So Calvert, McKinsey, Catalyst, Deloitte have all come out with some very interesting studies. So I think to the degree that we can get corporations to understand it, we can explain that business case. I wondered if there's a comparable business case, though, for nonprofits, for having women in the management, the leadership in nonprofits also lead to more successful organizations for those nonprofits.
Yeah, what I know about that is that what we see in the nonprofit world is that there's actually a great number of women in the nonprofit world in general. However, once you get up to the nonprofits that are much larger, say like a United Way or what else, American Red Cross, then you start seeing male management, and you see women. You see it much more. It looks much more like the business world. So I just think that's interesting that kind of those higher paid jobs still go to men in the nonprofit world, but that women are usually pretty well represented in the nonprofit world in general, but it depends on the situation, or it depends on the specific nonprofit.
Okay. Renee, and then-
Just a real quick comment I want to make, because it's evidence here today. We have within our organization various employee groups, and all of them are, of course, residents are women. One of the organizations that I'm really proud to be associated is Women of AT&T, and they have the unique and many of the other organizations, the unique perspective where they also have their own nonprofit organization. And so for those women who manage, and some of them are here at the table right now where you can see them, but for some of those who manage functionally various different aspects of their nonprofit status, in addition to being managers and employees of the business, get an opportunity to see and hear and experience both worlds. So they also have to raise their own money. They also have to connect with other stakeholders. They also need to be in the community. And at the same time, they've got to go to work and do the work that they're being paid to do. So it's a real unique blend. And I'm proud of that because the most active organizations that we have are the ones that are head and managed by our women.
Irma and then Emma.
I don't know if I'm right, but I think because what I say, I live in a small community, and is we work on a different level. So it's a county where it's just agriculture, and most of the women's we work and farm workers, and we don't be familiar with corporation, it's just with supervisor or contratistas, just like that. And I don't understand too much for that. But in our role as a nonprofit organization is we started work volunteer. Still we work volunteer, so now we have some money, and we pay some stipend for my team, what is really, really good volunteers. And what I say is different. So the word with us is we have the connection personally with members in the community. And now, what I say, for us, this new corporation or kind is new, but we start looking for help, and we understand on this to really to have some economical. We have money for continue to work, but I'm a little, it's because I understand all these terminals like corporation and that, but we are there, and we work with these women, we help them, and it's important for us to make all these connections, because I know, and for sure, we learn, and we get the help we need to grow and continue to work the women in these small communities.
Thank you. Emma?
Oh yeah, I just wanted to touch on Renat's very interesting comment that it's not just money, right? So it's not just how can we match with your funding criteria, but we need to get at tables that feel like they're equal in power and talk more broadly about what are some of the changes we need to make, right? Because corporations do more than give some percentage of their budget to nonprofits. They're setting the cultural standard in the US and globally. They're lobbying politicians and understand what's happening politically, right? They're advertising, which has a huge, huge effect on the environment we live in. And so if we could talk to each other beyond my nonprofit wants money, what do you fund, and how do we make a match? But we together are concerned that women are still not in leadership. We together are concerned that women don't have the rights that they need. And beyond our individual organizations, what can we do together to really change the conversation in a way that starts working? Because the conversation as is not working. And so I think that's a non-monetary way of really working together too.
Good point.
Very good. Excellent. So we're going to have an opportunity for folks to ask questions, but I was also having a question. For instance, do you think it helps to have in nonprofit boards women, men from the corporate sector, and vice versa? Because when I served on the board of the Women's Foundation, we had corporate people, we had nonprofit people, and we had government people. I mean, Patty Chang's vision was, we think we want to do a policy school. Elmy, you work for John Burton, and come and join the board. And I felt like I was being asked to be contributing in a meaningful way, something that I knew about, policy in Sacramento. What is it, community advisories, that, how does that work? And what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that there is value in bringing corporate people or people with a corporate kind of personality and focus to nonprofit boards. I think they bring a certain kind of rigor and a certain maybe focus on dollars and money and sort of making economical and efficient use of resources, whether that's people or contacts or money. Because some nonprofits that I've been part of are a little bit less rigorous about the need perhaps to make a profit, because they tend to think, well, I'm a nonprofit, so doesn't it stand to reason that I'm not going to be so focused on revenues and
No,
making.
that's good governance.
It is, that's absolutely right. But I think sometimes that corporate mindset
Yeah.
does bring in that little bit extra rigor
Yeah.
that can sometimes offer some advantage.
Yeah, definitely.
I definitely think it's a great idea because I think having a team which has different diversity, who comes from who have different perspective, will bring a broader perspective of what we're gonna do for both corporate and NGOs. It can help our corporate as it can help the NGOs. It will be new ideas where if only it was only NGOs, we won't see where the needs are. And for example, for the business, there's a new department, corporate social responsibility right now. I think that's how we see there is a mix between NGOs and business.
Okay. Emma?
There's also, right now, 17% of people on corporate boards are women. So there's a big lack of women on corporate boards, and as we know, that's where a lot of wealth accumulation and power accumulation actually happens. And one way to get on a corporate board that men and women often do is start on a nonprofit board to get that board experience and then kind of keep moving, right? So, another idea is for nonprofits to intentionally support that process of having women start on a nonprofit board and continue on their way to corporate boards, because we need women on corporate boards. And I think that's also a way of seeing what are both of our interests here. How can we work together? We will benefit if a woman who's been on many nonprofit boards and understands the issues is also now placed on a corporate board. So how can we support that?
Okay, we're going to be wrapping up. I'm getting the signal that we got to move on. So why don't we have you make a comment and we'll wrap it up with
I agree.
consensus. This is great.
We as a whole cannot move from A to B unless we have a diverse group of people who think differently, act differently, and behave differently. We will not get there. So it's important to have that cross mix, yes.
I just wanted to piggyback off this a little bit and just say that all of us here in the room have a lot more power than we think we do. We're consumers and we're shareholders. Mm-hmm. We need to use that voice collectively and speak up to these corporations that have 0 women on the board. Facebook, for example, no women on the board. How many people in here are using Facebook? Raise your hand. Raise your hand. Okay. Why are we using Facebook? Why? And also, why don't we have a day where we boycott Facebook to show that we are really upset that they don't have women on their board?
Action item.
Right? So I think there's a lot of talk, and talk is great, and we're all coming together, but we really need to come together with some ideas that really focus where our power is as women.
Thank you very much.